one of a billion things that need to be talked about tonight. I'm just going to ask you one. Our rookie Mukuba is had a lot of mistakes lately. Namely that one that he bumped into somebody in the secondary, and then on top of that, missed the tackle for one of the first touchdowns. Is he getting worse? Like, what's going on? Are you seeing him making any play? Because I haven't seen it probably since the KC game.
He had a bad game in this game. And, when a guy's a rookie, those things do happen. But he had a bad game. His eyes, in my view, based on watching the tape, I thought his eyes were in the wrong place several times. I thought on the Robinson 35-yard touchdown, he was uncertain of his responsibility even pre-snap. And then he tried to account for it by running inside with Robinson. And then when Robinson broke outside, Mukuba just kind of stood there. So that play, he was just mentally uncertain of what he should be doing. There was a third down completion to Theo Johnson on an outcut where I thought Mukuba clearly had his eyes in the wrong place. So he had a bad game. We'll see what happens going forward. I still think he's a very good player. You have to remember, he's a rookie who's just been a full-time starter now for, I believe, 3 games. It does happen.
Right.
Obviously there's only 17 games in a season. So if it happens and you lose, it becomes magnified. But he had a bad game. There's no other way around it. He had a bad game.
Yeah, I expected the ups and downs because he's a rookie. You got to expect that. So I just wanted to make sure we're not on like a bad streak of a lot of things.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, I guess we're going to find out as we go forward. He still plays very well and aggressively downhill in the run game, but in this game in coverage, he had issues. And my guess is they were mental more than physical. Obviously, Vic Fangio would know more specifically than I do, obviously, but I thought they were more mental than physical.
All right, appreciate you.
It's amazing how fast things happen in the NFL, because it was just like 3 or 4 weeks ago that he had the interception in the end zone on the ball that Kelsey, and then before that he was the star of the preseason with the fumble recovery, the interception for a touchdown, and we see, you're right, we see this a lot with rookies. They go up down, all their tape, so all their foibles are on tape as well, and teams can go after them.
Greg, I wanted to talk to you about a player that you raved about last year. He was one of my favorite players too, and that's the loss of Milton Williams. And it's like I think a lot of people just recklessly just this, he's good because Jalen Carter plays next to him. And we were in this room with you all year. We knew that wasn't the case. We knew that Milton Williams was just a really damn good football player. And, this year, obviously, Jalen Carter is dealing with some injuries. He's missed some time, missed 2 games. So it's not apples to apples. But what are you seeing from, Jordan Davis, especially these last couple of weeks, because we haven't really heard much on him? Moro Ajomo. I mean, I like Ty Robinson. I think he's flashed a little bit in the time he's been playing. But clearly, they're not anywhere close to what Milton Williams was and was giving us last year. So,
and you're right. And the problem is they don't have a pass rusher on the inside. Carter can be, but he's been up and down, and he has an injury, which I think is, who knows if it's worse than is being let on, but he certainly has not played at the level this year that he did a year ago, when for the most part he was a dominant player. But Milton Williams was, as NFL D tackles go, a pretty damn good one-on-one pass rusher. Okay, they don't have that guy. I think Jordan Davis overall has played very well versus the run, but he's still not a pass rusher. He may never be. We don't. He's in his 4th year, Jeff. Davis.
Yeah,
4th year?
4th year.
Yeah. I mean, he may never be that guy. I mean, I know they work with him, but there's some people who believe that rushing the quarterback, that there's an innate ability. You can teach guys, you can work with them, but on some level, there's an innate ability. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. Ajomo, I don't think has, the tape shows this as well, has advanced as much as they hoped based on his preseason. I think they felt pretty comfortable, and Jeff could speak better to this because he was at training camp and I was not, that they felt very good about him coming out of training camp, but in the games, he's not become that guy. Maybe he will. He's still a young player, but he hasn't up to this point. So right now they do not have an interior pass rusher. Keep in mind they have 8 sacks in 6 games. And now keep in mind in 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl and they led the NFL with I think close to 70 sacks or somewhere in that range and had close to 30 sacks just on third down alone. And right now they have 8 sacks total in 6 games. So they're not really rushing the quarterback.
You know, Greg, and before we go, it was around this time last year where I asked you about the D-line, and we were talking about maybe even Bond going down and that's how bad it was coming from the edge. And then you may have, let the bird out of the bag to somebody in the Eagles organization about Nolan Smith playing with power. Can you maybe do something about Jalix Hunt too?
I don't really control that, Frank. I'm just a humble guy sitting in my office watching tape.
We need all the help we can get, please, my friend. Do something.
But right now they're not rushing the quarterback very well. And if Carter's truly injured to the point where it limits his pass rush, now he'll play. It's not as if he's going to sit out the season. But if he can't be that guy, then they've got to figure out a way to rush the. One thing I was told by a defensive coordinator who's since passed on, who, when he retired, came and watched tape with me for about 5 years, and I learned so much from him. His name was Rod Rust. He always said to me, he said, if you can't rush with 4, you got to bring 5. He said, you have to impact the quarterback. He said, that's the bottom line. So we'll see what Vic Fangio decides to do. We know he's blitzed in his past. We know there have been times as an Eagles D coordinator he's blitzed. I'm not sure that that's his natural MO. I don't know if, he's not like Rex Ryan where he just wants to send people, all the time. But you've got to impact the quarterback somewhere along the line. So we'll see what happens. But right now, they do not have an interior player. And with Zadarius Smith retiring, now they've got issues on the edge as well.
Yeah, they got 1 sack right now from an edge rusher without Zadarius Smith there. Just 1 sack in 6 weeks.
Right.
It's hard to believe we're talking about the Eagles here.
Hey, fall is planting season. Did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of the year? But you got to know where to start. And that's why I love fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter if you live in the sunny South or if the air's getting a little chilly where you are, the plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. They've got everything your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, flowering trees, so much more. And Fast Growing Trees makes it so easy for you to have your dream yard because you can order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door. If you're like me, you're tired of spending way too much money on landscaping. And if you walk into one of those nurseries and you look at all the stuff they have, you have no idea where to begin. That's why you need fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter about the size of your yard. They got over 6,000 plants to fit any space, and a 14-point quality checklist ensures you will get the best quality plants possible. This fall, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code BIRDS at checkout. 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code BIRDS at checkout. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use BIRDS to save today. The offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below or in the show notes and support the show. Sports are all about competition. Every snap, every possession, every clutch moment matters. That same energy is what 1v1 Me brings to video games. Every single day, you can watch and stake on matchups in Madden, NBA 2K, FC, and Call of Duty Search and Destroy. All the games are streamed live. Every match has refs, and payouts are instant. And these aren't just random online lobbies. These are the best players in the scene, pros, streamers, and rivals. With season playoffs and the championship game on the line, every game matters. Over $100 million has already been paid out on the app, and the community is growing fast. If you're a sports fan, a gamer, or just someone who loves having a little extra on the line, 1v1 Me is where you need to be. It's not just about winning, it's about the bragging rights too. Every match has a chat going crazy, and you can back your picks in real time. Download today and use code BIRDS. Your first stake on the app is risk-free. That's code BIRDS for a risk-free first stake.
So I was just going to say, with some of the route concepts and the offensive, the scheme, aren't they basically telling us they don't really believe that Jalen can do some of the things that,
yes,
some of the commentators are saying, hey, they should just do this. Aren't they
I will
basically?
say this. All I can do is go by tape. I'm just going to tell you what the tape shows, and it will probably come across as if I'm saying that the coaching staff can do a better job, but I'm just telling you what the tape shows. The way I learned about the passing game from people way smarter than I am, the Bill Walshes of the world, who I was very fortunate to be around and get to know well. Um, the passing game against zone is really about choreography and spacing, okay? Because every zone has voids and weaknesses and stress points, okay? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to really maximize those stress points. I don't think, based on just watching tape, that the Eagles do a great job in their route concepts with their spacing. And that really helps quarterbacks because it helps define reads and throws. Because if the spacing is right and you're stretching out zone defense, because ultimately you want to stretch out a defense, you want to expand it horizontally, you want to stretch it vertically, you want to create space. So it's about choreography. Most people don't think this about football, but it's still a confined space sport. You just don't think of it that way like you think about basketball or hockey, where you can see the entire space on your TV screen. Football, you can't see your entire space on the TV screen, so you don't think of it that way. But in any sport that's about confined space, it comes down to choreography and spacing. I don't think, based on just watching the tape, they do a great job with that. So can they make Jalen a little better? Yeah, but he's never going to become a between the numbers tight window thrower where you go, whoa, those are amazing throws between the numbers. But I think they can probably help him, Eric, a little more than we're seeing right now.
Good
And
stuff. Good
just
question, Eric. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
no, just my last follow up to that. Is there anything that you can just quickly give that besides what you just kind of explained that can kind of make their offense functional? It's not to rip Patullo or Sirianni, but kind of like going back to the 2021 season where they kind of changed the way they played after a few games and they became a predominantly running team. Is there anything that they can do that you're seeing that can just at least make them functional at this point?
Get a run game going.
Yeah, functional is a relative term. I mean, like I said, is there a given week, depending on the opponent, where can he hit, AJ Brown on the outside, like in the second half of the Rams game against, probably average NFL corners who they're kind of playing against this week in Minnesota? Can they have weeks where that happens, Eric? Sure. That can happen. I don't want to sit here and say they're never going to have a passing game and Jalen Hurts is never going to have a good game. That would be stupid on my part, and that's not going to happen. He's still an NFL quarterback. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's an NFL quarterback who's had success in the league. So it's not as if he's never going to, have good games or make good throws. But it's just with his limitations that working certain areas of the field, they're not going to be able to work with consistency. Like they can't build their pass game around that. So, ultimately they're going to have to find a way to run the ball. And by the way, their run game was conceptually fine this week. They just missed. I mean, he might have had an 87-yard touchdown on. It was actually the play before he overthrew Devonta Smith. If Steen makes his block on Thibodeau, that might have been an 87-yard touchdown. And then no one would be saying anything about the Eagles' offense. They'd be saying, "Wow, they got the run game going." So, it's a very fine line. When you lose, people, particularly the way they've been losing and the offense has clearly not looked good, it's easy to say, man, this offense stinks. But on the other hand, you could say they've been close on a number of runs where blocks just haven't been made.
I get a little frustrated when a player of Lane Johnson's caliber, and he should
He
know a
shouldn't
little
say
better.
it.
When he says what he said about the offense being
Yeah.
too predictable, that was born out of frustration because nothing's
Right. It
working.
was right after the game in the locker room.
And what's irresponsible a little bit about it is it makes the fan think that that the coaches are bad and not doing their jobs correctly. When I think we've talked about this for a year. Of course their offense is predictable. They predictably did better last year than anybody. They handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley on inside zone and
Did
duo
anybody
and
think
watched
the
him
offense
go.
was predictable? Did anybody think it was predictable last year when they would open holes, for Barkley and he'd run for, seemingly a 50-yard plus touchdown every week? No one said, gee, that's a predictable run. I mean, it's
not like they're their run game is not like some Shanahan style where five guys are all moving and it's inside zone for the most part.
And by the way, and you guys know this, and there's not 1,000 running plays.
Right. Awesome. Good stuff. Everybody, thank you. Greg, thanks a lot. We'll do it again next week. Fellas, ladies, Judy, everybody, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.